Hey friends, I'm here in Santa Fe in my mom's lovely office. And I had a kind of an interesting vision this morning, which then kind of provoked some insights. And I was doing my morning yoga routine, and I started to I had this vision of meeting a spiritual teacher, meeting someone like Sadhguru, and witnessing the way, because I've seen, you see these videos where, and you read books where a teacher will kind of impart an energetic impulse to a student. They'll like put their hand on their head, or they'll put their palm over the solar plexus, and it just supercharges the system. And I've heard of this in any number of contexts now, and I've sort of come across it a number of times, and I've never had this experience, but I was just imagining the upsurge, the kind of energetic experience of that, and what that and a corresponding again, this is all I'm imagining this, right? It's not my experience. This is just kind of like the preamble vision to my insight, but I was just imagining what would happen to our system, what would happen to our consciousness when that kind of energetic charge gets imparted. And then I imagined, then I had a, again, this is kind of like, am I imagining this? Am I channeling this? It's hard to tell sometimes, but I had this voice come through and ask, have you mastered your fear? And I had to go internally. Again, I'm sitting there doing yoga while all this is happening. And I kind of went, I don't know. And then the voice said, well, you don't really want to supercharge your system before you've mastered your fear. Because if you do that, your capacity to manifest what's in your mind increases vastly. And if you can't control what's in your mind, you will manifest chaos. You could easily manifest your own destruction, or the destruction of people and things you deeply cherish. And then I realized something. It creates a context for me. It created a kind of insight for me about our limitations, right? We perceive our limitations as human beings. And especially if we're on a kind of spiritual journey, or even if we don't characterize it as spiritual, we're our own human evolution, the evolution of our awareness as we grow as human beings. We perceive our limitations as being things that we kind of can't wait to get past. We want to move beyond our limitations. But this sort of vision, insight that was coming to me this morning gave me this clue, like, oh No, our limitations are actually like guardrails. They're like the bumpers around a crib, or like one of those, toddler child safety gates at the top of a staircase that prevent us from doing something destructive, from hurting ourselves, from hurting other people, with power that we can't quite control. And I think this is the kind of both the thrill of the what I call the spiritual journey, or the responsibility of it, where we need to be leaning. We have to master our fear. We have to master our fear. There's no way around it. And the next insight that showed up was along the lines of what Sadhguru says when he talks about create your life in the context of your own mortality. Create the structure of your thinking within the context of your mortality, not the context of your immortality. And funny enough, I think I said this on my post yesterday. I'm reading a book right now called 4,000 Weeks. And the author, Oliver Burkeman, I believe, talks, he's billed it as a time management book, but it's not a time management book. It's almost like an enlightenment type book, like a spiritual practice type book. Turning time management into a spiritual practice, I think, is where it's kind of going. I'm only at the beginning of the book. But anyway, chapter 1 is called The Limit Embracing Life. And he speaks about, our tendency to not acknowledge our own limitations, not acknowledge, and not limitations in the sense of, what we would perceive as the absence of power, but limitations in the sense of our life is finite. It's going to end. There are limits to the amount of time we're going to spend on Earth. And as I was kind of coming into this, as I was getting to the tail end of what I was speaking about a moment ago, with, mastering our fear, what does mastering our fear look like? I immediately kind of got this blast of, oh, right, our own mortality. That's the thing that's the thing that is the kind of banner over the gate that we have to walk through if we really want to master our fear, because it's the thing we so easily banish and so easily don't consider. Who would want to consider it? Who wants to think about themselves dying? Well, deeply evolved spiritual practitioners do. because they understand that that limitation is actually, it's a gift. It's giving us a frame. It's giving us a context. I did a post yesterday about being God's eyes and ears, because I have this sense that that's ultimately kind of what we're doing here. There's a sense that the universe wants to experience itself. That's why it needed to come into existence. From non-existence, we had this big bang, and we began to exist. And that existence wants to experience itself. It wants to be conscious of itself. And we as humans are hugely, that's our I think it's our primary purpose. It's the reason we're here. If we want to talk about like what's the crux of our spiritual purpose, what's the crux of our spiritual existence, it's to be the perceiving apparatus for the universe to know itself. That happens in a finite context. The whole point of that is that it's finite, not infinite. It can only be infinite if it doesn't exist in time and space. So there's this way in which receiving our own mortality is just completely inextricably linked with what it means to be human, and with the purpose of being human, and with having access to all the kind of deep, juicy, meaningful aspects of being a human being. It's like our mortality is the door we have to walk through in order to receive all that. So in this hilariously ironic, sort of seemingly ironic way, we should all be thinking about our own death. We should all be contemplating our own mortality. It's a massive gift that we keep at bay because our organism has survival instincts, and if our focus is on that, if our focus is on our organism's survival instincts, then that will be the limit of what we see, and fear will be our constant experience, because God knows everything in the world threatens our survival in some way. I can look out, like a car just went by, that could threaten my survival if I was standing in the wrong place, right? If our focus is on that kind of bodily survival mechanism, then our consciousness will be all about surviving, which means being all about not dying, which means let's not think about that. Let's banish that, right? That's not what it's about. That keeps us on such a limited level of what this life is really about. So to me, once you've gone there, mastering fear isn't even a task anymore. Once our own mortality is fully a kind of integrated perception, then mastering our fear is part and parcel of that. It's what happens along the way, because we have to start letting go of some of that of that survival side of us. Not that it's going to go away. It doesn't mean we're going to step out into traffic just because we aren't, just because we've mastered our fear and we've accepted our mortality doesn't mean I'm going to go and, do something stupid. It just means focus of my attention, the locus of my consciousness isn't bound there anymore. And so my experience, my psychic and emotional experience, don't arise out of that. They're not coming from that place in my being. They're coming from a place where this finite life, an acceptance of this finite life is a wide open door into what is God trying to see through me specifically? Because there's a lot of people out there. That means the universe has got a lot of eyes and ears. What are mine trying to see? Right? What's the glimpse of the infinite of the universe that's trying to be perceived through me? We really only get there if we're reckoning with the fact that this isn't going to go on forever. This is a glimpse. It's a glimpse of it's a specific snapshot. And in the broad scheme of time, it's truly a snapshot, right? If you looked at your entire life in the context of cosmic time, it would be lucky to be one frame in that film. So Anyway, that's what showed up this morning. Thanks for watching, folks. So much love. I appreciate you. I value this conversation so much. And thank you for watching. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.